record this and let me share my screen. Okay, all right, so let's get going. Can you guys see my screen? Looks like some issue with the screen. Give me a minute. What's a problem? Okay. This is presentable. Okay, the screens are not coming. Just a second. Give me, guys, give me 1 minute. Okay. Where is my Zoom? Yeah. All right. I hope you guys can see my screen. Just give me thumbs up or chat if you can see. Let me quickly see. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. So this session, as I said, right, this is about decoding your diabetes. So for diabetes, let me tell you quick 2, 3 things, and then we'll move on. Number one thing, don't compare your diabetes with somebody else, right? That's the biggest mistake we do until unless we know the reason, right? What is my exact root cause of me being diabetic? मेरे को डायबिटीज क्यों हुई या मुझे डायबिटीज क्यों है, उसका कारण सेम नहीं हो सकता जो आपके दूसरे जानने वाले हैं. मान लीजिए फॉर एग्जांपल, you have a friend and you both are diabetic, but if your friend is following certain diet, certain exercise, there can be situation it will not work for you, right? Or it may not work for you, right? So please aware that, right? So that's the one thing. And second thing is, as if you agree with the first point, the second point is you should know your exact root cause of your diabetes, right? Why it happened, what was the reason, what was a change happened during last 10 years, right? Or 15 years or 5 years. Third thing, it does not happen in one day, right? It takes time, it builds up. The Rome was not built in a day. Similarly, diabetic cannot happen in one day. It happened over the period of years because of the changes happening inside your body. And you kept ignoring. It will give you sign. And if you keep ignoring, one day will become a diabetes will knock you and you have to welcome, right? So these 3 things, but let's go through the topic today, right? The today's topic is we're going to talk about is why my fasting sugar is high, right? Most of the time when we test our fasting sugar, we find, oh, I did everything. I'm following most of the things which has been given. I've been taking my medicine, but why it is always high, right? And it's a very common phenomena that people who are diabetic, they see this particular you know uh, fact or this particular concern they have, and once their sugar is high, fasting sugar is high, they are worried, their family members are worried, things like it is not working, right? So then there are cases when people start ignoring the fasting sugar and they say, oh, don't look at the fasting, let's look at the something, pp and before. So number one point is in your fasting sugar is, are you checking your fasting sugar right way, right? That's a one major thing people do a mistake. Now how do you make sure that my fasting sugar is checked right way? मतलब क्या मैं सही तरीके से अपने फास्टिंग शुगर को चेक कर रहा हूँ? क्या जो शुगर मैं चेक कर रहा हूँ क्या वो फास्टिंग शुगर है? तो बहुत से लोग फास्टिंग शुगर में मिस्टेक क्या करते हैं कि before the breakfast when they check it is a fasting sugar, they assume. No, it is not. It is before the starting any meal. You take breakfast, you take lunch, you take dinner, or random sugar. Random means you just do randomly, right? Maybe 5 p.m., maybe 6 p.m., or maybe 11 p.m. That's your random sugar. The fasting sugar means sugar just after your fasting is over. Now, fasting means, yeah, that's why they get confused saying that, okay, night 8 p.m. or night 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, I did a dinner and now I'm breaking my fasting at the morning 11 a.m. and just before is a sugar. No, That's not the fasting sugar. Fasting sugar is as soon as you get up, right? After completing your sleep, the moment you get up from the bed, that is the time you have to test the sugar. So not even going to the, freshen up, going to loo, nothing, not even taking a glass of water. The moment you put your leg, you know, outside of the bed, जैसे ही आप सुबह बिस्तर से उठें, उसी समय आपको फास्टिंग शुगर चेक करनी है, और वही होती है फास्टिंग शुगर. Reason क्या है कि the moment you start doing some activities, your sugar will fluctuate. Your body will give you more or less sugar, right? It will give you a little more, or it can dump you, right? Based on it understands, okay, the time has come, the person is active. So you actually do not test, you are not testing the fasting sugar, you are testing kind of a sugar which is like 1 hour of wake up, 2 hour of wake up. So if you have to test fasting sugar, this should be test like this, okay? So I hope you are not doing this mistake. And if you are doing it, please correct it. And that is where your name is a fasting sugar. So what are the reasons, right? Why we have fasting sugar high? Many reasons people tell. You know, Sometimes people correct those reasons, but still high. So we have to look at, and some of the reasons are in our control, right? As a human, as a habit is in my control. I can control those habits or those reasons, and some of those are in my body's control. My body control it. I don't have any reaction, but following my actions, I can I can actually improve my body's reaction, which means that कि जो मैं अच्छे आदतें या सही रीजन उनके सोल्यूशन को फॉलो करो और करता रहूं, after 3 months, after 4 months, after 5 months, my body will also start reacting the right, way. So we have to focus. What are those reasons which I have to control, and what are the reasons which body controls? Correct. तो सबसे पहला जो रीजन है जिसको मैं कंट्रोल करना चाहता हूं, वो है हमारा लेट नाइट ईटिंग, राइट? प्लस लेट नाइट ईटिंग एंड विद अ हाई कार्बोहाइड्रेट, राइट? सो लेट नाइट का मतलब क्या है कि आप 10 बजे खा रहे हैं, आप 11 बजे खा रहे हैं, आप 12 बजे खा रहे हैं, प्लस आप क्या खा रहे हैं, राइट? इफ यू आर ईटिंग लेट्स से हाई कार्बोहाइड्रेट आइटम, हाई कार्बोहाइड्रेट का मतलब है केवल आप राइस खा रहे हैं, यू आर ओनली ईटिंग wheat, you are only eating anything, right? Or maybe some sweets you have taken. I mean, if you are not a diabetic, or if you are a diabetic also, you might have taken some um, what you call the artificial sugars, right? That itself, generate an insulin response. So late night plus high carbohydrate. That's a one reason. Now question comes, can I control? Absolutely. I can I can convert my heating pattern. I can look at what am I eating. I can look at what time I'm eating. So for diabetic people, it is advisable they should finish their dinner by 7 p.m., 7:30. 7 to 7:30, they should finish their dinner. And there should not be very high carbohydrate, like not only rice, not only chapati, like 4 chapati, like, 2 serving, 3 serving of rice, like vegetable pulavs, like chicken biryanis, like, all these high carbohydrate items, right? I mean, it has a high carbohydrate plus so many things others also, but the carbohydrate is very high. So this is the number one reason I can control, correct? And if I'm not controlling this, then obviously other reasons will fall into a place also. So that's why the overall my sugar is gonna go high. Second reason, which is very common nowadays, is stress, poor sleep, because you have a stress and then you have a sleep not very good. And even if you have no stress, no poor sleep मतलब आप बिस्तर पे जाते हैं, आपको नींद आती है, बट आपकी आदत है देर से सोने की, 2 बजे, 1 बजे, या बिस्तर पे जाते ही यू स्क्रोलिंग सोशल मीडिया, राइट? टाइम पता ही नहीं चलता है कब आप 10 बजे गए, कब 12 बज गया, राइट? व्हेन 1-2 hours it just goes like that. So that way your sugar is gonna go high. You know why? Because you are not taking proper sleep, and then sleep, stress, vitamin D, sunshine, cycle, cardiac rhythm, it's all attached each other. एक गड़बड़ हुआ, वो सारे लिंक गड़बड़ होते चले जाएंगे, और रिजल्ट आपको सुबह, डायबिटीज लोगों को सुबह शुगर हाई मिलती है. तो नंबर वन थिंग इज टाइम पर सोइए, लेट नाइट स्लीप नहीं करना है. बाय 10-10:30 यू शुड बी ऑन द बेड. And if you are not getting sleep, you will start getting sleep slowly, or sooner or later. Plus, if you have some stress, you have to de-stress yourself. You have to find out a way how should I de-stress, because आज के जमाने में I cannot say कि no मुझे stress नहीं है और मैं stress नहीं लेता हूँ. It's not possible. The only thing is how much time do I spend in doing de-stress activities. If I'm doing that, then my stress is getting taken care. नहीं तो ये चीज आपको छोड़ेगी नहीं. करेक्ट. शुगर कभी कम नहीं आएगा अगर आपका स्ट्रेस है और पुअर स्लीप है. दैट्स अ सेकंड पॉइंट. अब ये दो जो पॉइंट मैंने पीछे बताए, दीज आर द टू इज वेरी मच इन माय कंट्रोल, राइट. बट यहाँ से जो पॉइंट है वो बॉडी के कंट्रोल में है, राइट. And glucose dump by liver early morning. This happens to everybody. Why? Because as soon as you 12 hours of sunshine is done, you are getting it up, body is coming back to into action. All your cortisol, all stress hormones are very high because body has to response, and the activity has to start. And that way, glucose dump happens from the liver because liver stores glucose. And that is why I was telling how do you check a fasting, because अगर आपने उठते ही फास्टिंग शुगर चेक नहीं किया और अब बाद में 1-2 घंटे आप अपनी एक्टिविटीज में लग गए, लिवर विल डंप द ग्लूकोज, राइट. एक धम से देगा. क्यों? क्योंकि उसको बाकी एक्टिव, अगर आपका फास्टिंग शुगर लो है भी तो भी लिवर आपको ग्लूकोज देगा. और उस जब आप खाने से पहले, ब्रेकफास्ट से पहले चेक करोगे, बीच में चेक करोगे, कुछ देर टाइम हो गया, तो आपका शुगर बढ़ा हुआ आएगा ही आएगा, विच इज अ नॉर्मल फिनोमिना. Non-diabetic people में भी यही होता है, but they have a good insulin sensitivity so that the sugar goes back to the cell. Insulin takes that and puts into the cell. That's why when they measure, their sugar is normal. But for the diabetic people, the insulin response is slow, insulin sensitivity is very slow, insulin resistance is high, and that way the sugar, that required sugar which is supposed to go inside the cell, इंसुलिन को भेजना था वो नहीं भेज पाया, तो शुगर तो उतना ही आया लेकिन गया नहीं. तो एक सबसे बड़ा रीजन होता है ग्लूकोज डंप. अब इसी ग्लूकोज डंप को दो फिनोमिना से बताया गया है. नंबर वन फिनोमिना इज डॉन फिनोमिना. इसको हम बोलते हैं डॉन फिनोमिना. डॉन मतलब जब सुबह हो रहा होता है. तो सुबह जब हो रही होती है उसी समय ग्लूकोज शुगर को सॉरी लिवर से ग्लूकोज डंप होता है. और ये डॉन फिनोमिना बहुत ही कॉमन फिनोमिना है. एंड दैट इज इफ यू हैव अ हार्मोनल इश्यूज लाइक आपका कॉर्टिसोल सुबह ज्यादा होता है लेकिन कम होना चाहिए, थायराइड भी गड़बड़ है, तो उस केसेस में डॉन फिनोमेना ठीक होने में बहुत टाइम लगता है. ये ग्लूकोज डंप जो लीवर से होता है उसको बहुत टाइम लगता है, राइट. देयर इज अनदर फिनोमेना कॉल्ड इज सोमोगोई इफेक्ट. ये सोमोगोई इफेक्ट क्या होता है कि जब आपका शुगर रात में लो हो गया ड्यू टू सम रीजन, आपने मान लीजिए फॉर एन एग्जांपल somebody is on insulin and or probably high medication, let's say 1000 mg of metformin along with leptin salt, and he or she followed the first two principle of eating right, eating early, and not taking stress, and or doing de-stress activities, and sleeping on time. For that person, Somogui effect can come into the picture. Why? Because the night time when the sugar is going low, उस समय अगर शुगर लो हुआ तो लिवर फिर डंप करता है शुगर, और वो उन्हीं लोगों को डंप करता है जिनका रात में शुगर लो होता है. आपको पता नहीं चलेगा सोते समय जब शुगर लो हो रहा है. जैसे शुगर लो हो रहा है, जैसे डिमांड ऑफ द शुगर टू रन योर बॉडी, एंड लिवर गिव्स यू शुगर एंड देन इट डंप्स इट अगेन, राइट. सो आप जब सुबह चेक करेंगे शुगर तो आपका हाई आएगा, लेकिन रात में एक बार वो, इसीलिए समटाइम when you go for the doctor and doctor gives you a chart to test, they also give you some time to test the sugar midnight 3 o'clock initially. First 2 weeks they ask you to test, क्योंकि रात में ये देखना है कि शुगर कैसे फ्लक्चुएट कर रहा है. और ये सोमोगोई इफेक्ट जो है ये मोस्टली उन लोगों को होता है जो लोग इंसुलिन पे होते हैं, राइट, हाई इंसुलिन. उनके लिए ये बहुत हाई फिनोमिना है द मोमेंट दे स्टार्ट फॉलोइंग द eating right and doing exercise. So these are the effects which the reason why it happened. Now अब हमें करना क्या है, action for why my fasting sugar is high. So these actions are very very important, right? What are these actions are? As I said पहले, sorry, एक्शन कहाँ गए, ये रहे. ओके, तो पहला क्या करना है, डिनर टाइम एडजस्ट करना है. और कंपोजिशन का मतलब है कि आप कितना प्रोटीन खा रहे हैं, क्या उसमें अच्छी मात्रा में प्रोटीन है, डज इट हैव अ गुड फैट, डज इट हैव अ राइट बैलेंस ऑफ कार्बोहाइड्रेट. मतलब ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि आपकी थाली में ओनली कार्बोहाइड्रेट है, प्रोटीन है ही नहीं. only या फिर lot of carbohydrate with very small protein with very small fat, right? So you have to look at the composition also. Composition should be high protein, high fiber, very less carb, and very less fat, right? So that should be probably, there is a specific combination. If anyone of you want to know, you talk to your coach, and whoever invited you can talk about it. Second thing is, should not be eating late night, right? And मिनिमम 4 आवर्स बिफोर बेड टाइम. सो बेसिकली अगर आप 11 बजे भी सोते हैं तो 7 साढ़े 7 बजे आपका खाना हो जाना चाहिए. दूसरा क्या है, आपका पोस्ट डिनर वॉक. जैसे ही आप डिनर फिनिश करें, या पोस्ट मील वॉक भी रख सकते हैं, तो स्पेशली यहाँ पे फास्टिंग शुगर की बात हो रही है, तो पोस्ट डिनर वॉक मतलब आपने डिनर खत्म किया, यू शुड गो फॉर वॉक 15 मिनट्स, रफली 15 मिनट्स वॉक, नॉर्मल आराम से. मतलब क्या है, यू शुड नॉट सिट डाउन, यू शुड नॉट लाई डाउन. मतलब बैठना और लेटना नहीं है डिनर के बाद. आपको 15 मिनट इमीडिएट डिनर फिनिश करने के बाद वॉक करना है. दूसरा, देयर इज एंटी ग्रेविटी एक्सरसाइजेस अवेलेबल. यू हैव टू डू दिस एंटी ग्रेविटी एक्सरसाइजेस after 1.5 hours of your meal. For example, 7:30 you finish your dinner, 9 o'clock, 7:30 you finish your dinner. So immediately you finish your dinner, let's say 7:40, 45, you go for walk, right? 8 o'clock, you come back, aram se baith jao. Then 9 o'clock is 9 p.m., which is a 1.5 hour, you should go for anti-gravity exercises, right? What are the anti-gravity exercises? There are many, right? You can do a staircase walking, you can do a, sit up चेयर पर. बेसिकली आपकी जो लेग्स की मसल है उनको आपको यूज करना अगेंस्ट ग्रेविटी, राइट? सो दीज आर द एक्सरसाइज वी शुड डू. थर्ड इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, इज स्लीप एंड स्ट्रेस. इसको अगर आप मतलब मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम यू सी people diabetic, I have seen a lot of diabetic people, they are looking for diet, they are looking for something, some ayurvedic something, combination which they can put in your mouth and their sugar should be controlled. It's not going to happen. And that's why it's not happening, because people are trying so many things, not getting results. Sleep and stress is equal or more than your food and your exercise. So if I am not looking at my sleep, and if I am not looking at my stress to solving it, I am not going to get out of medicine, right? So there are guided meditation, there's a deep breathing exercise, there's a proper sleep routine. This will improve your sleep and reduce stress. So that's it. So these three is something which is in our control, correct? So if I keep doing these three things over the period of time, I will do this. I will reduce my insulin resistance, I will improve my insulin sensitivity. Now, improving insulin sensitivity and reducing insulin resistance is not a one-day job, it's not a one-week job. क्योंकि आपकी डायबिटीज एक दिन में नहीं डेवलप हुई, इसको 5 साल 10 साल 15 साल लगे हैं. उसी तरह से इंसुलिन रेजिस्टेंस और इंसुलिन सेंसिटिव को बढ़ाने के लिए, रेजिस्टेंस को कम करने के लिए कम से कम उतने महीने तो लगेंगे. जैसे मान लीजिए आपको 10 साल से डायबिटीज है तो 10 महीने तो लगेंगे ही लगेंगे. अगर आपको 5 साल से है तो 5-6 महीने तो लगेंगे ही लगेंगे. इसलिए अर्लियर द बेटर. अगर आपको डायग्नोस हुई है डायबिटीज या प्री डायबिटीज में, दैट्स द राइट टाइम फॉर यू टू रिवर्ट इट बैक एंड यू कैन डू द बेस्ट पॉसिबल टाइम ऑफ डायबिटिक रिवर्सल, राइट? इट डजंट मीन दैट कि अगर किसी को 20 साल से है तो it cannot happen to him or her. Even if you're like 15-20 years, you can follow these steps, you can correct your fasting sugar, you can still live life with a healthy life without medicines, right? So these are the things for today's session. I kept it only for 15 minutes every weekend, so that small topic, small discussion, and small information, so that it can penetrate through. So thank you. I'll wait for 2 more minutes. If there are any questions, I can take it up. Otherwise, see you in next one. Probably will come up with some other concern, but the most of the diabetic people have. Bhushan, you can talk to the people who's invited you. It's very simple. He or she can give you, and mostly recordings are not shared from my sessions. That's why I invite. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bhushan. Anybody has questions? I can take 1 or 2 questions right now. I have 2 more minutes. All right, thank you guys, and see you next week. You can, and this session is open. I like all the diabetic people to come and understand, right? So if you are, I mean, this is a common, it's available, but yes, it's a pure invitational basis. I just don't want everybody to come just for curiosity, but somebody who's diabetic, whose family member, somebody is diabetic and wants to learn and apply these concepts, you know, they are welcome.
Good evening, sir. Excuse me.
Yes.
Sir, how millets help in controlling or reversing the diabetes? In what way it's supposed to take for morning breakfast, afternoon lunch, and dinner? How it helps and in what way we have to consume?
Your good name, please?
Myself, Smita PS, sir. Good evening,
Smita.
sir. Help.
Good evening. Yeah, Smita. So millets is one of the food item which we replace with roti or rice. मतलब wheat और rice की जगह हम millets replace करते हैं. But actually जैसे मैंने पहले कहा राइट कि अगर कोई एक आदमी मिलेट खा रहा है और उसका शुगर सही हो गया तो जरूरी नहीं है कि आपका भी मिलेट खा के सही हो. आपको एग्जैक्ट रीजन पता होना चाहिए. तो अगर आपको मिलेट्स कैसे खाना है, मिलेट्स को कैसे यूज करना है, maybe I can take that as a sometime topic. It's because it cannot be answered in 1 or 2 minutes. It has to
Yes,
start
sir.
with some concept and something. So
Yes, sir.
I'll add into my list and probably I'll take some session.
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank you.
Sure. All right, guys. See you next Sunday again. Bye bye. Have a Sunday evening.